Good morning and welcome to our Transportation Summit for 2021. I'm Sara Roberts-McCarley. I am the chair of the Citrus Connection and I'm happy to be here with you today. We wanted to talk to you a little bit, Tom Phillips and I, the director of Citrus Connection, about what we provide to the area and why transportation is so important. Number one, the Citrus Connection works, we are a progress in motion, and that's one of our taglines for the organization, that we want to help move people all around Polk County, which, as you know, is 2,200 square miles. We run 7,500 miles a day throughout the county, and Polk is just a great place to live, work, and play. So we're happy to be a part of that. I wanted to add too that as the board of directors, we have 3 county commissioners and 3 city of Lakeland commissioners that serve in that capacity. It's a very important role for us as we manage the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District as part of Citrus Connection. And those 6 individuals look at all of our financials. We help guide staff so that we're providing the best service possible for you throughout the county. In addition, I want to highlight that over this last year in our pandemic, we were able to provide services continually throughout. And that is something we're very, very proud of. All of our operators showed up to work, they participated, they helped provide that service that is much needed around our area. We serve 17 municipalities and 2,200 square miles, as I mentioned earlier. And during COVID, we kept the buses running. The county partnered with us. We were able to provide over 200,000 masks. So our people that were using the buses were safe, our drivers were safe, and we worked as diligently as we could to provide that service. The impact of public transit on the community at large is very important. Several things happen whenever you have a thriving public transit system, one of which is public safety and less traffic on the roads. Florida continues to grow very fast in this post-pandemic world, which it's not a post-pandemic world yet, but we're seeing thousands of residents come to Florida every day, a lot of them coming here to the I-4 corridor. And it's really important that we are able to provide that transit service to them and to the community. It saves individuals money. They're able to use public transit to get to work, to get to school, doctor's appointments, the grocery store, and provide all the necessary items that they need in daily living. And we're happy to be the ones that provide that service to them. Additionally, it's high mobility for people who might not be able to drive, and it provides a great connectivity in between our municipalities and the unincorporated Polk area, as well as within our own cities themselves. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce Tom Phillips, the Executive Director of Citrus Connection, and turn it over to him.
Thank you, Board Chair. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to the 2021 Transportation Summit. We are very excited to have you join us today. Thank you for joining us on PGTV. Obviously, as you all know, we wanted to do this in person, but we also wanted to do it safely. And so thanks to PGTV and our participating sponsors for allowing this to happen today. With these fantastic government resources, we know that people can enjoy this time and time again. There's a wealth of information that's going to be shared today, from how do you ride the bus, what different types of transit do we provide. Lots of people know about our large fixed route buses, but they may not know about our smaller ADA buses. Or today you're going to learn about Transportation Disadvantaged, which is a very unique transit system to the state of Florida for those at or below the poverty line for medical or medical related only. So we try to make public transit as easy and approachable as possible, but obviously there are nuances, and we want to make sure that people can find out how to ride transit, so you're going to learn a lot about that today. Obviously, none of this would be possible without our sponsors, which include PGTV with the donation of the facility here today. Our sponsors also are Transportation Transit Solutions, Tyndall Oliver, Avail, the City of Winter Haven, Polk TPO, Polk Human Services, Baycare Health, FDOT, and specifically the Transit Summit Committee. Rod Wetzel is here in the studio today. You'll be hearing from Rod, and this would not be possible without him. So our board chair really talked about what we've been doing and how the board interacts, but I'd like to talk a little bit about your public transportation system here in Polk County and what we've been doing. So 41 years ago, so we're 41 years old, the citizens of Polk County, specifically within the greater Lakeland area, wanted to have mass transit, recognizing that today we're 686,000 people, over 2,009 square miles. But even 41 years ago, there was a recognition that Polk County is the belt buckle between the Tampa and Orlando urbanized areas. and that as they grow, Polk County is in a strategic position to benefit from the best that Orlando has to offer, from the best that Tampa has to offer, but we wanted to make Polk County a great place to live, work, and play, and not just be a bedroom community for those larger areas to our east and to our west. And so the citizens recognized that mass transit was important. So in 1982, they voted to create the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District. And that first year, we delivered approximately 200,000 trips. How far we've come, the first ADA vehicles that we used was actually an old ice cream truck that was modified, so we've come a long way. And today, we deliver over 2.4 million rides to the residents of the greater Polk County area. So, as 1982 evolved and we became bigger and bigger, we provided more and more service to the citizens of Lakeland. Fast forward to the early 2000s, and the Polk County Board of County Commissioners and the Winter Haven area was growing, and there was a recognition that what had occurred in Lakeland needed to start to occur on the other side of the county due to population densities and the need to get people to work, to medical appointments, shopping, and to be able to support the economy. And so the Winter Haven urbanized area, thanks to the Polk County Board of County Commissioners and the Winter Haven City Commission at the time, applied for federal funds for the Winter Haven area and stood up what we know of as Winter Haven Area Transit, a much smaller version of the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District. And the Polk County Board of County Commissioners funded the majority of that service with a contribution from the city of Winter Haven. Over the next few years, Winter Haven Area Transit grew, and the cities of Auburndale and Bartow also joined, making smaller municipal contributions, but the Polk County Board of County Commissioners making the majority of that contribution, along with the federal and state government. Fast forward to 2010, and there was a transportation referendum that looked at a half-cent sales tax for transit. That failed. And then in 2014, the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District partnered with the Polk County Board of County Commissioners for the My Ride, My Roads initiative, which was a 1-cent sales surtax, where half was to go towards roads and half was to go towards transit. That failed as well, but we had a very good plan B, thanks to the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District Board of Directors and the Polk County Board of County Commissioners. And that plan B was that even if the My Ride, My Roads referendum failed, there was a recognition that Polk County was at a point in the 2014-2015 timeframe that we needed to consolidate government resources and do more with the resources that we had available. Recognizing that My Ride, My Roads and that $32 million investment that would have come along with it would have vastly increased transit, but we needed to do more with what we had in light of the failure. And so in 2015, the 80 employees of Winter Haven Area Transit and the Polk County Board of County Commissioners merged with the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District, and the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District now, for the last 6 years, is operated all of the public transit in all of Polk County. So you're still probably, if you're watching this from Winter Haven, you see Winter Haven Area Transit buses running around. And for some of you that get door-to-door service in our Davenport 27 corridor area, you may still see buses that are called Polk County Transit buses. We want to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars, and so we're not rebranding those buses. We're going to run those with the logos until we replace them. But what we've been able to do is deliver the same amount of service or more for the same amount of budget or less for the last 6 years. So we've actually been able to increase public transit through this merger while reducing redundancies. And I think that's what everyone wants to see from government, specifically from public transit as well, is that we're being good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. So if you're watching this from the 27 area, you know that we've added multiple routes thanks to the Polk County Board of County Commissioners and the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District Board. We used to have 1 bus route in that area. We now have over 6 bus routes in that area. You're able to ride the Citrus Connection, and you're actually able to transfer with links in Pointsiana, and that initial transfer is free. You can actually ride public transit from the Bradley Junction, Mulberry area of Polk County and get all the way to Daytona and see the sunrise or sunset on public transportation. I wouldn't recommend that you do it unless you take an overnight stay, but it is something that you can do. And we're looking forward to one day partnering with Hart on the other side of the county so that you're able to transfer the entire I-4 corridor. In the meantime, we have partnerships with Greyhound as well as Flixbus and Megabus so that people can use our park and ride lot facilities to be able to get in and out of the region, in and out of the state, at a premium price, but yes, those options are available. So we're very excited about what we've been able to do for the past number of years. We look forward to the future, recognizing that mass transit is extremely important to the continued economic development of Polk County. 56% of our rides, as you'll hear today, are for employment purposes. That means that if people didn't have the citrus connection, they wouldn't be able to get to work. 87% of our riders in all of our communities do not have access to a personal use vehicle. So if it were not for the citrus connection, they would not be able to get to work, their medical appointments, or other appointments. So it's a very exciting time to be in public transportation in Polk County, recognizing that it's extremely important to our continued economic development. So I want to thank you very much for watching today. It's a very exciting time. This Transportation Summit is going to give you a lot of information. If you are in our social services sector, we are going to be recording this today, and it will be available for you to be able to get on thumb drive or watch, because we want to make sure that we make this transportation system as accessible as possible. So today you'll be learning primarily about 3 different types of transit. The first type of transit you'll be learning about is our fixed route buses. Those are the large 30 or 40-foot buses that go from point A to point B and pick people up along the way. Many of you are familiar with those. That's what we think of as mass transit. Those vehicles are ADA accessible, meaning they have wheelchair positions. Our typical bus has 2 or 3 wheelchair positions available, and the vehicles can actually kneel. So they actually come down to the street level so people with disabilities can board, and they have bike racks on the front. That's a great service if you're able to get to it. If you're not, you're going to learn today about our ADA Paratransit Service. That's where we use a smaller vehicle and we get you to any of your appointments that you're needed, medical, shopping, employment, and those buses provide door-to-door service. And that door-to-door service is provided in a smaller vehicle. Once you go through a registration process, you're going to learn more about that today. The registration process is that you fill out a form by calling our call center at 855-POLK-BUS, and you fill out a form and you explain why you can't use the larger bus, and then your doctor certifies the medical condition that you're not able to use the larger bus, and then we actually provide door-to-door service to you to be able to get to your appointments, or shopping or whatever you may need to go for. The third type of service that you'll learn about today is the Transportation Disadvantaged Service. This is eligible to every resident in Polk County, anyone who's watching this, for medical or medical related reasons, and it is based on a certification process for those that are at or below the poverty level. And we'll talk about what that certification looks like as well. So if you're watching this program today, know that there is a public transportation solution that is out there for you if you need it. Riding public transportation in Polk County is not like riding public transportation in New York or Chicago or LA. When we think of public transit in those areas, we think of population density driving public transit, and parking issues driving public transportation. We don't have parking issues yet. I live in Lakeland. Sometimes downtown can be a bit frustrating, and we're working on a project called the Squeeze that may alleviate that. You'll learn a little bit about that today. But we don't have the parking issues or the population density issues yet, but mass transit investment's important to being able to deal with that. What we do have is a suburban poverty issue that we're attempting to tackle through mass transit in getting people to and from work on mass transit. And that's a way that they can be a vital member of the economy. So covering the 2,009 square miles, as our chair talked about, is one of our biggest challenges. Covering transit with the size of a county that just happens to be the size of Delaware is extremely challenging. If you look at our Route 15, for example, That route runs from the Winter Haven area to the Haines City area. That route is 22 miles long in one direction. In most transit agencies in the United States, that would be 3 transfers, and we do it in one bus, 22 miles each way. So you can imagine the challenges with covering territory that size. But we want to be an economic support and an economic engine to all the communities that we serve. And by extending our hours, running more on the evenings and weekends, we're able to be more and more relevant, not just to the first shift workers, but to the second and third shift workers as well. So again, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today, and you've got a great day ahead of you, and thank you so much to our sponsors. Hello everyone, Tom Phillips, Executive Director of the Citrus Connection, here with our board chair, Sara Roberts-McCarley, Lakeland City Commissioner, and we are very excited to have you back at the Polk Transit Summit, a community conversation. And our next community member that we are going to introduce is one of the most vital members of our community, David Darm. And I just have to say, I have been in public transit throughout my career in the United States for well over 20 years. Starting in Chicago. And what the Transportation Disadvantaged program does for the state of Florida, and specifically for the residents of Polk County, is absolutely unique in the United States of America. We're very blessed to have this program in the state of Florida. It is unique to the state of Florida, and it helps out the residents of Polk County, and is probably, to my knowledge, one of the most underutilized and most important state programs in the entire state of Florida. When I think of things in urgency in the state of Florida, I think about economic development, I think about our drinking water, and then I think about transportation, especially in this environment where medical and medical-related transportation is so very important, and we are all talking about and protecting our health during the COVID epidemic, and the Transportation Disadvantaged program is absolutely fundamental. This is a program that literally keeps people alive. So I'd like to introduce our next guest. David, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and I apologize that I could not be there, obviously in person, but I appreciate that we were still able to hold this forum. I very much appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all today about this important program, but more importantly, how this program serves as a role of a larger conversation. I know that the theme of this conference, of this summit, is about having a conversation as a community about the issues of transportation. So a lot of the content that I'm going to cover today, I'm going to give a very high level overview of our program, but more importantly, what can you do, each of you in your respective roles, to support our fundamental purpose, why we exist, which is to really ensuring people have access to their critical needs. And so with that, I will go ahead and get started here. I'd like to start this discussion with kind of understanding our role. For you to know a personal background about me, I am actually legally blind. I am transportation disadvantaged by the definition of my disability. I rely on others for being able to access, work, grocery shopping, etc. Pretty much all my mobility needs. So I've learned over I was born with this disability. And when I was a child, I wasn't able to really speak up, exactly articulate what my challenges were being visually impaired. I needed others in my life, my parents, my teachers, my friends who were really good advocates for me. And these were the individuals that kind of influenced me to learn how I could eventually find my own voice and become my own advocate. And then eventually, as I became an adult and I pursued a career in public service, I wanted to be a voice for other people. I wanted to pay it forward, because there's a lot of individuals out there, unfortunately, that don't necessarily are not as blessed as I was, who may not necessarily have the ability to learn to speak for themselves or know how to navigate this complex system to get their needs met. And so I believe that the purpose of our role, whether you're at a level like mine, where you're influencing public policy, or you're at the ground level where you're working with individuals, each of us has a role of being able to be a voice for the needs of those who may not necessarily have that voice. So who do we serve as our program? We actually serve individuals with disabilities who cannot obviously drive themselves. We also represent individuals who are older adults who are losing their ability to drive, which is related to disability as well. And then also income. You heard a little bit earlier about income being a barrier, and that our program is designed to find maybe ways to subsidize their transportation because they cannot afford it to be able to access critical activities in their community. So as you heard earlier, Polk County's focus is, their transportation disadvantage program is really focused on medical, and that is, I would say, probably our top need to address statewide. But our program as a statewide program, we've also look at the whole picture. We look at barriers to employment, to social recreation, to education. Now, each of the communities, our program's a statewide program, and we fund each of the counties, but the counties determine where is their needs most critical. So in the case of Polk, medical has been a very big issue that they put as their top priority. But other communities may have it a little bit more slanted towards employment, or it could be some other aspects. So our program is really trying to address all these varying types of access issues. So in terms of Florida's structure, the way we were trying to respond to these issues, I appreciate that I think that Florida is one of the most unique states in terms of addressing this problem, because it's not simply that the state of Florida created this commission and just a dedicated trust fund. We wanted to look at understanding the bigger picture, that there were, back in the 80s, particularly, we saw that there were human service programs that were funding aspects of transportation. So for example, Medicaid would pay for trips to the doctor's office. So if you were on Medicaid, you could get access to a doctor's appointment if it was covered under the Medicaid state plan, but not necessarily you couldn't get transportation to the grocery store, at least at that time, to get your prescription filled. So the state of Florida, the legislature, created this program really to try to fill the gaps where these other programs or community transportation options were not filling those needs. You heard earlier about also transit, public transit, those fixed routes. A lot of those, services existed already through the state of Florida, but there was limitations to those services. And so this program was trying to, again, be an extension of increasing access where the communities were limited in being able to meet those needs. In terms of the delivery of our services, we are a state grant program, so we fund transportation services, and we do that through a network called Community Transportation Coordinators, or CTCs. So Citrus Connection is our CTC for Polk County. So at the state level, we designate each of these entities to be responsible for either delivering the transportation disadvantaged services of their county, or multi-county area. In the case of like Orlando, Lynx is our CTC. They cover 3 counties. And also, if not them providing the service, they may also contract to do those services. But we've designated them to be responsible for trying to coordinate these needs in their community. In terms of our trips, most of our services entail what's called Paratransit, which is a door-to-door scheduled type service. But we also have counties that will do what's called bus passes, which is, again, for those individuals who are lower income, below poverty, who maybe have a physical ability to access a fixed route, a bus, but they're financially not able to necessarily use it all the time. So our funding will go in certain areas to support those individuals if they qualify to accessing that fixed route through a subsidy. So in terms of now kind of transitioning to the purpose of this discussion and this forum, is really trying to understand, how do we tackle the broader issue of transportation barriers? What is it that the TD program can do? And also collaboration with other community partners. And those of you, I understand most of you represent are maybe caseworkers or social workers who work with individuals and are trying to find transportation options. So this is really kind of transitioning to what can you do and really laying it out in kind of a step-by-step process of how to think through these really complex challenges. So number one, we must start with the customer's needs and work backwards to the transportation. Too often I've learned in public service and government is that it's easy sometimes to go straight to, we just need to fund more transportation, or we need to, require mandates on how transportation should operate across the state. And unfortunately, the reality is that there is not a one size fits all, and every individual that we're trying to serve each of them has unique needs. So what may work for me in terms of my needs may not necessarily work for somebody else who may just need medical. Also, from a community side, each of the communities of our state, we're a very diverse state, have different types of unique challenges, and the solutions that may work for a Miami-Dade wouldn't necessarily work for Liberty County. So we try to look at how can each of these communities try to understand fundamentally how to meet those needs within reason, within the resources that they have. And so it's very important to understand what options are available, informing the individual about what they can do. Maybe they may need TD services, obviously, to go to medical appointments, but they also need to understand what other options they have in terms of accessing other activities in the community. And so you as working with an individual have to kind of look at this across the board to help an individual kind of map out what's best to meeting their needs. So once we understand the individual's needs, then we work towards, like I said, backwards to the transportation, what is existing in the community. And as you heard earlier, there's really, largely we've looked at three kinds of services. We look at the fixed route, the bus service, the traditional point A to point B, if that is available. That's usually the option that we try to encourage first because it is the most cost-effective option. The second, as you heard, was about ADA paratransit, if that exists, and that is basically an extension of that fixed route for those individuals with disabilities who cannot, for their own physical reasons, cannot access that fixed route. This services may be available to them. And then third is the TD services and the human service option that's available. And in addition to our program, you may also find, if you work, for example, I know the Florida Developmental Disabilities Council, they've done in the past some voucher programs. There may be some unique types of programs that do other forms of subsidies for transportation. They may partner with private companies like Uber and Lyft and make some special arrangements for specific clients' needs. So there are maybe options out there beyond just the more traditional models of fixed route and paratransit. And then also it's important to look at beyond just the transportation. What about designing of a pedestrian route? If, I live in the downtown area of Tallahassee, where I'm fortunate enough where I have the ability to walk to many locations like a grocery store near me where I live. I don't need to go constantly using a bus to get to that. So, considering those needs that are, if that's available in your community. Also, even if you're trying to get an individual to access a fixed route, if their sidewalks aren't accessible or conducive to getting to that route, there's no point. I mean, it's defeating the whole point of getting more expansion of a fixed route service. So we have to look at the broad picture and see how each of these options can fit into meeting an individual's need, and where those limitations are, where these maybe aren't available or should be more available. So then the third step is, once we kind of understand the individual's needs and what options are available, how do we as a community and who are our partners in terms of collaborating to enhance those options, either by creating more options or mitigating some of the barriers that we're seeing system-wide or community-wide that are in fact affecting these individuals. So we look at, in our program, we're very fortunate. We set it up where we've created what's called local coordinating boards or local TD boards, which are intended to have stakeholders around who are impacted by this program to be able to be a voice, going back to what I said earlier, to advocate and help design and plan transportation options to meet these individuals' needs. So these stakeholders can include elected officials, human service providers, the workforce development system, and a whole bunch of other groups. And most importantly, advocates, self-advocates, people like me who are impacted directly by the services, have a role to play in providing feedback on how those can be improved upon or enhanced. So it's very much important if you are able to access these groups or get connected with your community to see where you can be able to have a role in being a voice in influencing how those services work. And then the fourth step, and this is something that we at the commission at the state level are really trying to work hard on, which is understanding how does data inform our decisions? How can data help us to understand where needs are needing, where are the needs, the unmet needs, as well as where those maybe those services need some kind of evolving, because as we've learned over the last 5-6 years, we're seeing a lot of innovation and a lot of changes in the market where the traditional paratransit model is being kind of disrupted or being reshaped or rethought. For example, especially when we see the use of technology and the evolving transportation network company market where you have Uber and Lyft and these companies like that, you're going to we see that the data is going to help us to understand how can we adapt the program to continually meet these changing needs. And then, you know, as we continue to go down this path, continually adapt and adjust as need be. So it's important that data, really good, accurate data is critical to helping us through that process. And then finally, what can you do? As I mentioned earlier about advocacy and about you being a voice, this is where I, as part of the presentation, I share with groups, it doesn't matter what your role is. You could be simply a person who's just trying to find transportation, or you could be trying to serve as a local leader or work on serve on a board. Each of you has an important role to play in being a voice. I use Mr. Rogers as an example of somebody who really was an influence on me as a child, because he understood that he had a role to play in terms of speaking for those who could not speak for themselves. And as part of that, he really built his integrity and his character about being an honest person, being standing to his truth, but also listening to others and being able to work with others. That really advanced his cause. And so it's important that, you know, continually being to speak your truth and being able to be a voice for the people you represent, but also to understand and try to learn about all the varying types of players, stakeholders that you work with, maybe coming at the problem in a different way. And it's important that we try to work through those to try to see if we as a system can build a better option, a better service for them. So consider these steps as you go through your conversations today. And also, in addition, I'll leave you with, we also have some research here if you want to do your own, beyond our website. This is a link to our website, but also some of our partners, the National Mobility Management Center, they have some good resources too about how communities can build mobility options. So I encourage you to, work with your local system to try to think about these things, but also consider doing some additional research on best practices outside of just your community, what maybe can be helpful to you in bringing in to what you're trying to address today. And so with that, I will be happy leaving my contact. This was my service dog, Ranger, by the way. Usually when I speak in public, I'll say, I'll take any questions, but obviously we're doing it virtual today. And if I have any hard questions, I just defer to Ranger, my guide dog, to answer if I can't answer them myself. But this is my contact info, and I'm happy to receive any emails, or we can connect you with the right people who could probably be able to answer your questions. So with that, thank you so much for having me speak, and good luck with the rest of your summit.
Good morning. My name is Aaron Dunn, and I'm the director here at Citrus Connection of Revenue Services. Welcome to Transit 101. This class is intended to provide an explanation of the transit services we provide here at Citrus Connection and to offer an overview of our service area. Citrus Connection operates 29 fixed bus routes and 28 paratransit runs that service the entire 2,011 square mile service area of Polk County, as well as parts of Orange and Hillsborough County. This morning, I will be discussing our 29 fixed bus routes with all of you before turning it over to my friend and colleague, our Director of Regional Mobility Services, Marcia Roberson, who will be discussing the other great services that we offer here at Citrus Connection. As you can see, our service is broken down in two major areas for our service area. We call it the West County routes and our East County routes. I'm going to start with our East County routes first. The first route that I'm going to discuss today is the Haines City Winter Haven route. It starts every day at 5:45 and runs every afternoon until 7 p.m. It's a Monday through Friday service that has a 1.5 hour frequency, and it also operates on Saturday between the hours of 6:45 and 3 p.m. Next, we have the 17X. This is a unique route. This is something that we run servicing between Lake Wales and Haines City. It's an express route. The start time is 6:25 in the morning all the way to 6:55 p.m. every day, Monday through Friday, but it also runs on Saturday from 6:36 to 3:36 p.m. The frequency of this service is 2 hours. And our next route is the 21X. This is a very exciting new service that we just started here in the last few weeks at Citrus Connection. This interconnects the Bartow, Lake Wales, and Lakeland service areas. Historically, that has been problematic through Polk County. The east-west transit is very limited, so we're very excited to offer this new service. It currently is operating on a 3-hour service interval, but that's really due to the fact that it's brand new. We do anticipate it increasing to 1.5 hours in the coming weeks. This service will operate Monday through Friday. It's a 6-day-a-week service, but it will operate Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 7:30 or to 6:48 p.m. And then it operates on Saturday, 7:30 a.m. until 3:52 p.m. Again, we do anticipate the frequency of this increasing, and so far it's been very popular. The next route is our 22XW. This runs between Winter Haven and Bartow, right here at the very courthouse that we're coming to you from today, live in Bartow. It operates Monday through Friday from 5:45 a.m. until 7:04 p.m. Also operating on Saturday between the hours of 8:15 a.m. and 1:34 p.m. This has a frequency of 1.5 hours, and interestingly, the location that it services here in Bartow is serviced by our 22XL out of Lakeland. So it's kind of the sister service, making sure that Bartow is connected to the two major urbanized areas in our county. Next, we have the Route 25, which is the Bartow-Fort Meade route. We're very excited about this service. It's paid for by our partners in the city, as well as through grant funding. Again, it runs Monday through Friday. This one begins at 5:45 in the morning and 5:53 p.m. is when it ends. There is no Saturday service for the 25 as it currently. It has a 45-minute frequency to 1.5 hour frequency. That's due to the staggered service we offer on this route. So at certain parts of the time of the day, there's a little better frequency, and other parts of the day, it's an hour and a half. Next up, we have the 21X. This is very unique. This is something that we just run a couple times a day at the beginning and the end of our service to Eagle Ridge Mall. This is in the heart of Winter Haven. We call it the 27X. It's from Dundee to the Eagle Ridge Mall, where several of our routes meet and connect at our major hub there. The start time is 6 a.m. The end time is 7:05 Monday through Friday, and it only runs every 5 hours. So again, we run a run in the morning at 6, one midday at 11, and then an eastbound one at 10 a.m. as well, 10:30. Next up, we have the Route 30 Legoland. This is a very exciting route. It's helped paid for by our partners in Winter Haven as well as through Legoland. This uniquely is our only route in the service area that's 7 days a week. It actually runs on Sunday as well. The Legoland route runs from the Winter Haven terminal to the Legoland service area into the Eagle Ridge Mall, where it connects with our other routes. Its start time Monday through Friday is 6:15 a.m. and its end time Monday through Friday is 5:53 p.m. The frequency of the route is between 45 minutes and an hour and a half, again, depending on the time of the day. Next up, we have the Route 35. This is an interesting route connecting the three areas of Lake Wales, Babson Park, and what we call the South County Jail outside of Frostproof. As you can see, the depiction with the dotted line shows where it only runs part of the day. It runs Monday through Friday from 6:15 a.m. to 7:05 p.m. and the frequency of this route is 1 hour. Next up, we have the Route 4044, Winter Haven South Side. This is pretty much an inner-city route operating in southern Winter Haven from the downtown terminal in the Winter Haven area. It operates Monday through Friday, 6:15 a.m. through 7:04 p.m. on a 1-hour frequency. Next up, we have our Route 50, a very popular route connecting Auburndale to Winter Haven. Again, this route begins and ends in the downtown terminal in Winter Haven. It operates Monday through Friday, 5:45 a.m. to 7 p.m. Also operating on Saturday between the hours of 8:15 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. This route operates on a 1.5-hour frequency. Now we have our Route 60, which is Winter Haven Northeast Quadrant, going all the way up to Lucerne Parkway area. Again, starting and stopping at the Winter Haven Terminal downtown, operates Monday and Friday on a 1-hour frequency between the hours of 6:15 a.m. and 7:04 p.m. The next series of routes I'm going to talk about in the East County area are all helped provided for by a company called Transitions. They are our transit partner. They contract with us to provide 4 of the routes that we offer here for Citrus Connection. They look, dress, act, walk, and talk just like us, the Citrus Connection bus. So if you're out on the street and you see them, they're going to look just like the rest of our buses in operation. And this is the first one. This is the 16X, which connects Haines City and Pointsiana. It's an express route beginning at 6:25 a.m. all the way to 7:45 p.m. Monday through Friday on a 1.5-hour frequency. Next up, Transition also provides for us, or provides for our community, the 18X, which connects Parsner Park and Four Corners. This is a really, really important area for our community along the 27 corridor, a very high traffic congestion area. I really encourage people to get out there and check this route out. It's a very good service for anyone living in the Polk County area with a frequency of 1 hour, operating Monday through Friday, 5:30 a.m. through 6:55 p.m. and on Saturdays from 7:26 to 4:55 a.m. Next up, also provided by Transitions, is the Parsner Park Pointsiana Express. This is running Monday through Friday on a 45-minute interval. It is from 6 a.m. to 6:55 p.m. And last but not least from Transitions is our new 20X, the 20X, Haines City to Davenport Express, connecting those two cities with a start time of 5:30 a.m. and an end time of 6:55 p.m. Of course, that's Monday through Friday. It also services Saturday from 6:55 a.m. to 3:55 p.m., operating on a 1-hour frequency. This is the 603. This is like a dial-a-ride service. This is an on-demand service operated by Transitions again. It starts at 6 a.m. Monday through Friday and ends Monday through Friday at 6:10 p.m., also operating on Saturday from the same hours. The frequency of the run is scheduled pickup and drop-off. So what that means is you call in advance, you request the bus to come and get you. It provides you service throughout this service area within 3/4 of a mile of the line that you see on the screen. And they have a great call center over there at Transitions. They're really willing to help everyone, and they've done a great job delivering this for our community so far. The 21X. This again is the new route. I think we discussed that earlier. I'm going to skip to the next one. This is the purple line. You'll notice a difference in nomenclature on this route, where in the east part of our service area, we have the numbered route system. We then move into a colored route system in the Lakeland area or the West County area. This inner city route is connecting Winter Haven and the greater Lakeland area. So that's why we call this one the purple line. Its interval and times will all link up with the interval and times in the Lakeland area as well as in the Winter Haven area. So for potential riders out there or people that are thinking about trying the service, it's important to understand that when you connect from one city or one side of the county to the other, your bus routes will line up so you can make your connections. And this is the first of these. This bus route operates Monday through Friday between the hours of 5:45 a.m. and 7:55 p.m. It also operates on Saturday between 7:15 a.m. and 4:05 a.m. It's a 1.5-hour frequency, which is actually pretty good considering the distance involved there. It's almost a 30-mile route one way or the other. And again, connecting two of the major cities in our service area. Next up, another colored route is the Silver Line Express. As we discussed, the 22XW in the Winter Haven area. This is the formerly known as the 22XL out of the Lakeland area, which begins at the Lakeland downtown terminal and travels to here in Bartow, where we come to you live this wonderful September 2nd morning. Every day, Monday through Friday, from 5:55 a.m. to 5:51 p.m. with a frequency of 1.5 hours. You can see on your screen a depiction of now the West County route. So we've discussed all the routes that we provide on the east side of the county, and now we're kind of coming into the west side, which is really comprised of the Lakeland urbanized area. And so therefore we won't go through each route line by line because uniquely 2 years ago, Citrus Connection Board of Directors gave us the autonomy to reconfigure the routes in the city of Lakeland. The city of Lakeland used to operate 11 intercity routes. We reconfigured those routes into 8 combined omnidirectional routes. Therefore, all 8 routes in the inner city of Lakeland all operate on the same time interval with the same frequency throughout the system. So it's very conducive with connections within the city of Lakeland and very easy to follow for riders. In fact, for the riders that want to try the Lakeland system or the West County system can go there and see that the timelines and color code system is different from what is in Winter Haven. That continuity we continue to work to try to bring together at the district. But without further ado, all the intercity routes in Lakeland begin at 5:45 a.m. And you'll see on your screen it depicts the stop time as 6:25 p.m. However, that's a misprint. We actually run the routes until 8 p.m. Monday through Friday on all 8 intercity routes within the West County side. On Saturday, we run the routes from 7:15 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. and they all operate on a 45-minute frequency. Now, uniquely, each one of the routes in the city of Lakeland have 2 buses along them, one going in one direction and one in the other. Each one of those buses go on a 1.5-hour frequency, which makes it a 45-minute frequency for any point along the route within the entire city limits. Okay, so now that I've discussed the routes here at Citrus Connection that we offer, fixed routes throughout our area, I would like to encourage everyone to come try our routes. Please reach out to us on our website, on our phone, or you can call our Regional Mobility Call Center and give us a try. Don't text and drive, and this is a great way not to text and drive. Just get on the bus, you can text all you want. We'd be happy to have you, and we look forward to seeing you on our buses. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my wonderful colleague, Marcia Roberson, who's going to talk to you guys about some of the other services we have.
Thanks, Aaron. As Aaron said, I'm Marcia Roberson, and I want to discuss some of the services that we have here in Polk County area. We learned quickly that not all transportation services are created equally. Although we have a valuable resource here in Polk County, it is really clear that it can be sometimes intimidating and unfamiliar for people who need to come and utilize our systems. So because of that, we established a travel training program, and that program is a valuable resource here in our county because it creates a sense of stability and confidence for people who need some self-assurance that they can learn and travel the service independently. Citrus Connection's travel training program is a comprehensive real life scenarios. It gives real life scenarios to familiarize passengers with local transportation. The travel training programs have several different benefits. One benefit to the client is it gives them confidence as they ride and utilize the bus service, and it allows them to be able to travel independently and be able to have a better quality of life. I'm going to go back for just a moment. The other benefit is for our agency. Our agency, by passengers going out and utilize the travel training program and learning to get past that learning curve, it gives them ability to be able to use the service, and it takes some of the strain off of the paratransit service that we provide locally. Some of the services provided through the travel training program is for customers to be able to learn safety and self-awareness. You're learning to utilize and learn the maps and the systems, the bus routes, the bus stop signs, and so forth. Travel training program creates real life travel training that would give them the ability to learn trip planning, making transfers, learn how to use our fare system, street crossings, accessibility to bus stops and terminals, and follow appropriate social behaviors and system rules for our agencies. The travel training services is provided by Delicia Drayton and Milvia Santiago, and their numbers listed here on the website. You can reach out to them. It is a free service and a very important service for the people in the developmental disability communities, or just simply someone who may come from the north and need to learn our system here. The travel training program partner with places like Project Hope in helping developmental disabilities learn to utilize the service. So I'll briefly talk about some of our paratransit service, and the services that we provide in paratransit are two different services. Neither of them do the same. Both provide paratransit service, but they're unique in their own way. With the ADA paratransit service, it is comparable service for paratransit service, and it's comparable means it should be comparable to our fixed route service. It services the same service area, and it creates citrus connections. It establishes citrus connections, a commitment to providing mobility to all of our disabled citizens. Individuals utilizing and being eligible for the paratransit service could be approved for our services sometimes or all the time, meaning that they could be, meaning that some of them could be approved conditional or unconditional. Conditionals could mean maybe their service area maybe the place where they're going don't meet the Citrus Connections guidelines, so we would not take them there. If an individual meets the criteria of eligibility with respect to some trips, but not all others, passengers using the ADA service would establish those trips to meet their needs. Okay. Citrus Connection has a service area, and that service area is comparable to Citrus Connection's traditional fixed route service. The service does not include, ADA service does not include deviated fixed route service. It does not include flex service or express service. Aaron brought to your attention some of the express services that we have, and I'll give you some examples of our routes that is not inclusive to our ADA service area. Routes like 25 and 35, they have a dial-a-ride service, and those services, customers could call us 1 hour prior and have the bus deviate off the route. Routes like 33 and 39, those passengers would need to call us in advance the day prior to be able to have the bus deviate off of the route to pick them up. And then we also have services like our express services from Lakeland to Winter Haven or from Winter Haven to Bartow and Bartow to Lakeland. Those routes are also not ADA service routes, so they would not be subject to the ADA guidelines. In all of ADA trips, the origin and the destination must meet the ADA service area, which means if you're picking up from home, your home address is in the ADA service area, your destination must also be within the service area. One of the things that we want to make sure that community understands is that as our bus route changes, the fixed route bus service could also change. When the fixed route bus service changes, our ADA service area also changes. Now ADA, both of our eligibility funding services both have an eligibility process, and we'll get into the ADA service process for clients. When a client applies for ADA service, it requires an application to be completed, and that application is a two-part application. One part with the client explaining their needs for the service, and they'll also check the barriers that will prevent them from using our fixed route bus service. The second part is for a healthcare professional to complete, which explains the medical terms for which a client cannot use a bus service sometimes or all the time. That ADA application must have a HIPAA release form when completing the application, and this assures that when the application comes to us incomplete, it gives us the ability to reach out to the healthcare professional, get the answers that are left blank, and so that it doesn't delay the customer from utilizing the service. And now we also have our Transportation Disadvantage Service. That program is a partnership that we have with the state for the Transportation Disadvantage Program, frequently known as TD to the community. The term transportation disadvantage would mean that persons who have a physical or mental disability, an income status, or unable to provide transportation to themselves or purchase transportation, and therefore depending on others to obtain access to health, medical appointments, education, and other life-sustaining activities, and children who may have a disability or at-risk child. The qualifications and requirements for utilizing, accessing, Transportation Disadvantage, or TD's Paratransit Service is, it also requires a TD application. That application must be complete in its entirety, and it must also be signed to assure that we're providing service to the correct person. It requires you to be a Polk County resident, which means if you come here from New York and you're needing transportation and your address is outside of the ADA service area, that person would not be eligible for transportation disadvantage. Polk County residents must show proof of their residency. And most recently, we've approved that customers who are like snowboarders who are coming here for at least 6 months or more be considered as short-term residents, allowing them to meet the eligibility requirements for the service. We also require proof of income or lack thereof, expenses, and most clients who would be approved will be approved for as low as the $22, same rate as ADA. With transportation disadvantage, unlike the ADA service, your origin and destination must be outside of the ADA. And I said or, which means if a customer who is utilizing our service, home address is outside the ADA service area, but the location that they're going to, they'll be qualified. That trip would be a TD eligible trip. The only exception to the rule is ADA clients who are in the ADA service area and fixed route is closed. The exception is we provide dialysis trips, chemo trips to those clients when fixed route is closed, because at that point they are transportation dependent. The eligibility process is a little bit simpler than the ADA process. That client is responsible for completing a 2-page application. They complete them themselves. It does not require a healthcare professional to complete the application, but it does require for them to complete it in its entirety. The service does not replace any other means. It doesn't replace a car and a home. It doesn't replace medical trips, nor does it replace sponsored trips by other agencies. However, when you have a car in your home and the car is not accessible for you during the hours of work, you would be LTD eligible for that process. Or for Medicaid clients who can take the Medicaid trips, their healthcare trips through Medicaid, it will allow you to still utilize our service for other life-sustaining trips like grocery, medical, and pharmacy. As I said earlier, it does require for you to be a Polk County citizen. Some of the eligibility requirements is that we'll take a look at your need for transportation disadvantage and determine whether your income and outgoing expense would determine you need or would qualify for community transportation, because some clients may be able to purchase trips on their own. Now, one of the questions people often ask me is, why do they need to call, what applications should I complete? Well, if you're not a transportation professional, sometimes it can be challenging in determining which application you should choose. So I think the best practice is to call one of the intake specialists at our number 534-5500 and press option 3. Or you can email us at allemployees@risecitrus.com. What that does is it allows us, you provide us the home address and the most frequent trip needs, and we'll decide which application is best for you. And why must you call? Well, one of the reasons why it's a call is because there is a frequent frustration for customers who pick one application, then all of a sudden they require another application. So, for example, if Aaron Dunn takes his application to the doctor completes the application, the doctor may charge a fee for completing the application. But then when the application is turned into us, the place that they're going, their home address may be in the service area, but maybe they're going outside the service area for their healthcare needs, and now all of a sudden they've completed the application and we tell them there's a whole nother process they have to go through. And that become frustrating to the client. That's an additional barrier to them for their ability to access transportation. So it is the best practice that you either call the office or simply email us the address and some of the most frequent needs of where you want to travel to, and we'll determine which application best suits the client. And some clients could qualify for both applications, both services. And so I've discussed the paratransit services here in Polk County and gave you an outline of what ADA and TD area covers, the application process. But Transportation Disadvantage also has additional programs such as the Bus Pass program. That program is designed to provide fare assistance to customers to meet their everyday needs. Fixed route passengers who need paratransit fare assistance, fixed route customers who need fare assistance would be eligible for one free monthly pass. It is the same eligibility process because it is the same program provided under the Transportation Disadvantage program. Customers who are ADA approved and need to take general life-sustaining trips would be eligible for one free 10-ride bus pass to take care of their life-sustaining trips. If a customer has things like dialysis and chemo or therapy or something like that and take more frequent trips throughout the month, they could be eligible for two 10-ride bus passes. And as I said earlier, because it is all Transportation Disadvantage, they have the same eligibility process. And that outlines both Transportation Disadvantage, ADA Paratransit Service, the TD Bus Pass program, and our travel training program. And we thank you, and we thank all of our community for choosing transit. If you have any questions, please contact our office at 863-534-5500 for intake and eligibility questions. Contact push option 3.
We understand at Citrus Connection that it can seem confusing. A lot of services that we offer, a large service area, many different bus routes. Our hope is that you reach out to us. Through some of the resources Marcia has discussed here today, it can be very beneficial to potential riders. Again, the travel training program, we cannot say enough about how easy they make it for everyone. It's not just for people on ADA or paratransit. It's for anybody that wants to ride the bus and they just need to figure out how to ride the bus. We have great resources also that you're going to hear more about later today. For example, My Stop Mobile is a great app. It's free. You can find out not only where the bus routes go, but where they're at in real time, how many people are them, which bus you need, and which bus you're trying to get to wherever it is you're trying to go throughout the service area. We were very hard to try to make this as easy as we can for all of our riders, and especially for our potential riders. So please stay tuned to later this afternoon when you hear about the technology that we offer to streamline the service. We also offer a lot of things to further make it easy, such as mobile ticketing, and our website is very easy to use as well. It has all the information contained in today's presentation from Marcia and I can tell you firsthand that by contacting the number and getting the information directly from them, you're going to get connected to a great set of folks to give you access to a great set of resources to solve your transportation needs here in the county. I thank you all very much for your time and hope that you stay with us to hear State Senator Danny Burgess speak next. Thank you.
Hello and welcome back to this year's Transit Summit. I'm Rod Wetzel, Senior Planner at Citrus Connection, and it is with great honor for me to introduce our next guest. Because of his work with veterans and his knowledge of transportation and veterans, I am proud to introduce to you Senator Danny Burgess.
I am really proud to be able to be here today and talk to you about, I think, what we can do and should look to do going forward when it relates to this problem and many others. I know we're faced with a lot of challenges in the current environment that we live in. I wish we could be together in person, but obviously there's forces in the world right now that are having us not have these types of opportunities. So I look forward to meeting in person when the time is right and getting to know those out there in the interwebs right now that I haven't had an opportunity to know or to meet. Our district office is in Zephyr Hills, Florida, so kind of centrally located in Senate District 20. If you ever want to come by or if you ever want to meet, just reach out to us and I'd love to have the opportunity to do so. So prior to becoming a state senator, I actually had the honor and distinction of being the governor's secretary for the Florida Department of Veterans Affairs. I was appointed by the governor when he was elected in 2018 to serve in that capacity. I am a major in the Army Reserve, recently promoted in civil affairs, and so veterans issues, as you can imagine, are a very strong passion of mine. So to be able to work in the veterans field after having filed many veterans related pieces of legislation as a House member prior to to joining the governor's team, it was great to be able to focus on that full time. I did that for a couple of years, obviously, before running for the state Senate, and feel like we're continuing to be able to build on the mission and what we were working on. There was a lot of momentum and a lot of stuff going on, obviously, before the pandemic. But the great news is the pandemic hasn't slowed down the agency. I'm going to talk a lot about the Florida Department of Veterans Affairs because it's the most relevant, I think, tool in the toolbox for everything we're here to discuss today. So I'm going to harp on my past life and the current leaders who are there, who are not only fixing the things I probably broke as the head of the agency, but also carrying on the tradition and the mission in a stronger, better way than I could have ever imagined. It's really awesome. So many of the people that work at FDVA are veterans themselves. And in Florida, we have 1.5 million veterans in our state. That's profound. We're actually recently became the second largest veteran population in the nation. And on top of that, especially when it relates to healthcare and transportation, we have over 700,000 senior veterans over the age of 65. That's the largest in the nation, which makes this mission very, very, very critical and very important. We actually, in the middle of a pandemic, here's a success story. I'm always a glass half full and positive, optimistic outlook kind of guy. I think that's what you have to do to be able to get through these challenging times. And great news, we just opened up. So the state has a set of nursing homes they run. They're all veterans nursing homes. We don't run any other nursing homes other than our 7 veteran nursing homes. We just opened up the newest in the middle of a global pandemic. We just opened up a nursing home, which is ground zero for COVID-19 across the world. We in Florida were able to open up a brand new veterans nursing home last week. That is awesome. And that's not happening everywhere. And that's a testament to our leadership at the governor's office with Governor DeSantis and his prioritizing seniors first. It's also a testament to the great folks at the agency who have made this possible despite the challenges faced with every single day in this pandemic. So I was proud to be able to be there down in Port St. Lucie and continue to carry on that mission of caring for those who cared for us. You know, so in addition to that, the best kept secret in FDVA are the veterans service officers. When I was a state rep before I came into the agency to run it, I didn't even know we had these. I mean, and so we had quickly identified a problem. We realized, hey, this is a service we provide free of cost. I would send my issues to our congressman, who is an amazing veteran advocate, but I had no idea that at the state level, we had folks that were working every day with our members of Congress to help resolve these issues, and I could have just gone to them directly as well. So our mission immediately when I joined the team was to get out of our foxhole and to get across the state of Florida and get our message out, let people know we're there, because there are so many great resources for veterans throughout our state, but they don't do a lick of good if nobody knows about them. So we had to go identify where there's services across the state, where there's gaps in services across the state, identify them, solve them, and fill them. And so we did that through an initiative called Forward March. And some of you on the line here may have participated in one of our Forward March meetings. We did 9 throughout the state of Florida, pre-pandemic, of course. Actually, the last one was not too long before it kind of started, with the pandemic. So we really were working so hard. I'm glad we got to at least finish the assessment phase, boots on the ground phase. And then from that, we collected all that data, had well over 1,000 participants collectively in all these 9 meetings. And it's everything from elected officials to veteran leadership and community leaders throughout the state. Really awesome. And also identifying these nonprofit groups. There's so many great groups that are filling these gaps already. We just got to get their message out for them. And so that's something we've really worked to do. And of course, the issues we endeavored to discover were everything from education to homelessness to benefits to transportation to mental health, you name it. So we really tried to deal with every aspect, the whole picture of a veteran and what they face as they transition out of the military and also, are out of service for quite some time. So we do a great job at teaching our veterans how to put their uniform on in America, but we don't do as great of a job at teaching them how to take it off. And so transition can be very, very, very challenging. And I think we're well aware of that now, thankfully, and we're trying to address those issues, both for those who have served in the past and also those who are getting out of the military today. What we're seeing in Afghanistan, politics aside, is going to cause a lot of veterans to struggle who have sacrificed so much over there. We've already started hearing stories of this, and it's only going to grow. Think of all the post 9/11 veterans who gave so much of their youth and energy and efforts to be over there. And now they're watching and they're wondering what it was for. And we need to be there for them in their darkest hour now, because they were there for us. So on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, I think that has to be our primary focus, and carrying on their mission and their legacy. But the cool thing about Forward March and where it went from where we started is it all culminated in a really fancy looking report. And here, I'll just kind of put it over on the page here and cover my face a little bit, but I'll block my nose so everybody will be happy about that, I'm sure. The Forward March is a pretty comprehensive report. This was the fancy hardbound version. I'm really proud of it. We have a few copies here at the office, and we ran out of these a long time ago. But at the end of the day, you could pull, and I highly recommend you pull the electronic version of this off of floridavets.org. That's at floridavets.org, and that's the official FDVA landing page. And there used to be there is a link to be able to sign up for the Forward March newsletter, which is also an awesome way to connect to all the things going on. It's like a bi-monthly or a monthly newsletter that they're continuing the tradition of that we started when I was there, and it's really informative and awesome. You can also download on our webpage the complete version of this Forward March report, and I highly recommend you do so. It identifies the gaps and how we need to fill them. It also on the very back has recommendations and where we need to go from here. A lot of it's legislative, so we're continuing to try to tackle those bit by bit, year by year. It won't be done overnight, but we really have to rely heavily on our community partners to be able to do that. I realized that I started to address veteran service officers, VSOs, and I never really completed that thought. I'm very much like that, so I apologize. But veteran service officers, like I was saying, are the best kept secret we have in the state of Florida. A veteran service officer has to be a veteran. So it's a peer-to-peer connection, which is critical for our veterans out there in the state of Florida. Once they are talking to a veteran, somebody else who has served maybe a different time, place, or uniform, but they still served, there's an instant rapport that is built. And it really breaks down barriers and helps us be able to help our veterans. So what does a VSO do? A VSO is trained and certified by our agency, FDVA. There are state VSOs. There are also county VSOs. So Polk County has them as well. Across the state, every county has veteran service officers. They do the same thing. They're just county employees. So you could call FDVA or you could call your county VSO, one and the same. They're going to do the same thing, and they're going to have the same capabilities and certifications. And so from there, they'll say you're not in the VA at all. Say you're a veteran who's never really considered signing up for the VA, which we have a lot, and that's also something we're trying to identify and solve here. A VSO, soup to nuts, will help you apply, identify what you're probably eligible for, fill out that cumbersome application, and submit it on your behalf. So they're your advocate. They're almost like your lawyer, but it's free of charge. And so let's say the VA denies a benefit. And you're going to appeal it. You can appeal it. Well, guess what? You have an advocate in this veteran, this peer-to-peer veteran VSO, who's going to advocate for you, represent you like a lawyer before the appeals board in court in the VA. And hopefully, usually our success rate is pretty strong there. So you have a built-in zealous advocate free of charge who's a veteran, a peer, and they're very highly trained in this world, and take that weight off your shoulders. And I mean, to not be shouting that from the mountaintop. Now, the pandemic has kind of stopped our ability to do that, in terms of, getting out there. We're doing more and more now, but obviously we've had our challenges since this started, but we're really starting to ramp up our efforts again to get this message out and make sure everybody's aware of this service, because it's invaluable. It's invaluable. So my number one takeaway from here is start to hit home. As you're meeting veterans, you're trying to help them through issues they're facing, whether it's healthcare, transportation, or otherwise. Make sure they're connecting with a VSO, even if they're in the VA system. They may be eligible for things they didn't know they were eligible for when they originally applied. We got to fix that. So that's absolutely mission critical. Shout out to the Polk County Citrus Connection again, and Polk County Transportation, because Polk County at the local level has been a great example of doing it right all along. For so long, you've allowed veterans to travel for free on your system. That is awesome, and we need to make sure that stuff like that is happening at all levels of government and in all counties across the state. So huge kudos to you. That's a story we want to tell. I remember when we unveiled the Purple Heart bus way back in the day with Dave Walters, again, good friend, and he lives here in Zephyr Hills. So He's a local down here, and that was a big deal. That was a really, really awesome thing that you did, and those things go a long way for veterans too. It really lets them know that they matter, they care. We care. The reality is a large number of our senior veterans are now of the Vietnam era, and we all know how they were treated when they came home. We have over 500,000 Vietnam veterans in the state of Florida, and that again is a record in the nation. We have the largest population. It's the silver tsunami is what it's called, because now they're getting up in age around 65, and so they need us, they need our help, and they deserve it. We need to make sure that we make up for the treatment they didn't get when they came home. And so stuff like this is really mission critical. I want to make sure that we get it out there and just get these resources in people's hands. The key takeaway from my ranting today is just get resources in veterans' hands. Also, we have the Florida Veterans Foundation, run by some great folks in Tallahassee. It's the direct support organization for the Florida Department of Veterans Affairs. And what it does is it basically allows us to be able to provide direct financial relief and otherwise, and support great organizations and initiatives across the state that we can't do with tax dollars in our agency, but we can do it with monies raised through a nonprofit. And so it's our state nonprofit for veterans. So reach out to the Florida Veterans Foundation, connect with them, find ways that there's symmetry in action, and see how they can support you or you support them. Together, a rising tide lifts all boats, and that's what we need to push to continue to do. That really is all I kind of have on my plate and on my heart. We just got to be there for those who were there for us. They still need to get to the VA. They still need healthcare treatment. Transportation is challenging, especially in a COVID environment. So we got to adapt and overcome. Thankfully, we live in a great state and in communities like yours and Polk County who recognize that need and are willing to step up to the plate for them, as they did for us. I'll leave you with this, and I think it's a great, Polk County rally cry. As I close, just know that I'm actually heading to Polk County to meet with your one and only Grady Judd. So I'm off to do great things there and hopefully solve some problems and get to say hey to the big man himself. But I was also told to remind you that there's going to be a break after I'm done speaking, and at 12:15 you are to be back in your seats. And in military time, you're not 5 minutes early, you're late. So I'll leave you with that. All right. Everybody have a great time out there in Zoom land. Thank you for listening to me. Hopefully you got something out of it. If you didn't, I apologize. And my name is Neil Cumbie. So anyway, God bless you. Stay safe out there, and go Army. Army strong.
So good afternoon. The Transit Summit continues, and for this afternoon session, we have Nicole Mills, the Intermodal Systems Development Administrator and Safety Administrator for the Florida Department of Transportation with us, as well as Chuck Barmby. He's the Business Development and Transportation Manager for the City of Lakeland. And I'm Ryan Kordek with the Polk Transportation Planning Organization. And we're here to talk, this session we're going to be talking about kind of the, I guess, the local perspective to transit and transportation issues with the City of Lakeland, obviously. Nicole's here. She's going to talk from the state perspective, and then I'll be kind of sprinkling in a regional perspective on transportation issues and the future of transportation planning, what some of the long-term plans are in Polk County and what's going on. But before I go too long with my introduction, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Nicole, and she's going to start us out.
Thank you, Ryan. Good afternoon, everyone. As Ryan said, I'm Nicole Mills. I'm with the Florida Department of Transportation here in Bartow, in District 1. And in District 1 and in DOT as a whole, we have adopted what we call the vital few. And those are 4 main points that when Secretary Tebow assumed office a couple of years ago, that he wanted to make sure that we achieved during the tenure of office. These 4 items are what we do in everyday business, and they're at the forefront of all of our thoughts and our projects that we move forward. Today, we will talk about 2 of the specific vital few items. We'll talk about improving safety and enhancing mobility. Here we go. So Florida has adopted Vision Zero. Vision Zero is the goal to eliminate fatal and serious injury crashes. We accept crashes will occur, however, we expect all involved to walk away or be able to fully heal. For safety, we must achieve Vision Zero. This is possible and has already been done in places like Norway. Also, the capital of Norway witnessed 0 cyclist and pedestrian fatalities in 2019. There was a single traffic fatality in Oslo, but that involved someone driving into a fence. Traffic fatalities in Oslo also dropped from 41 in 1975 to 18 in 1990 to 1 in 2019. The most probable reasons for the city's drastic improvement in traffic safety include more bicycle infrastructure, lower speed limits, fewer vehicles on the road overall, and less traffic in residential areas, including speed bumps, vehicles equipped with better technology, and better roads in general. The city has also created car-free heart zones around every primary school in an effort to focus on child safety in particular. Smart mobility is a connected system strategizing transportation solutions for all. A great example of this is Copenhagen Connecting, where the city utilizes various sources of data to optimize traffic, reduce congestion, and also reduce emissions. Copenhagen has established one of the lowest congestion rates in Scandinavia. Both of these examples are from cities. Now, Florida is a much larger area with more people, but we are looking worldwide for success stories. These stories need policy change, culture change, and the courage to make hard decisions. So FDOT has a very high focus on safety. And you will see some alarming numbers on the screen with statewide our traffic fatalities, and in Polk County, the same category. Some of the primary ways to get to Vision Zero involve our 4 E's: engineering, education, enforcement, and emergency response. All of these need to work together to bring attention to safety. Some obvious methods include eliminating conflict points, which means unique intersection designs, and connected and automated vehicle technology, a highly anticipated autonomous vehicle. Less obvious methods require a team approach with state and local entities, as well as developers and businesses. Putting the right road in the right place allows for advancement of mobility and safety. It also involves creating infrastructure for the use of alternative modes of travel, allowing us to address our 5th E, equity. If we want different results, we need to try different approaches. In District 1, we have a unique approach, and that is to focus on community success, putting the right road in the right place. District 1 is laying a foundation by establishing goals for all of the state corridors. This is accomplished by integrating land use and transportation planning, and includes engagement with stakeholders. To do this, we need to talk to the right people. We coordinate with our local government planners, staff who handle land use planning, and make decisions to properly inform the district's studies and projects. It requires engaging the community early and often. We share and seek relevant land use and transportation planning information with our local government planners and local government staff early on, so that our studies, projects, and development on and along state roadways are better informed and coordinated. We participate in local government and regional plan updates, such as the long-range transportation plans, comprehensive plans, transportation mobility plans, and bicycle pedestrian plans. FDOT's projects need to align with local vision. We need to provide relevant planning information to district staff so that the transportation projects align with community visions. We provide technical assistance to local government staff and district staff to assist in finding mobility solutions that advance these local visions and are compatible with land uses. Multimodal planning is moving to the forefront of our planning efforts. FDOT will be assisting agencies in the development of master planning for various modes, such as bicycle, pedestrian, transit, aviation, and freight. Planners will work with transit agencies, the TPOs, counties, and cities to add pilot projects to these plans. These pilot projects will be something such as a circulator around downtown areas, bus-only lane on a roadway, bus rapid transit route, van pooling or carpooling, or even an intermodal center that connects multiple modes together. So self-sustaining neighborhoods that provide a majority, if not all, of the resident needs are known as traditional towns. The traffic is contained within the neighborhood area. Speeds are slower, travel distance is less, allowing for the use of other modes of transportation, such as bicycling or walking, as shown on the bottom half of the graphic, versus the current types of development patterns that exhibit sprawl. These development patterns have limited entrances and exits and direct large amounts of traffic movements to one spot only, which causes an increase in congestion and a delay in travel time. People can and do use other modes of transportation with sprawl, but it is not the choice mode. It is from necessity. So this is an example of a neighborhood in Orlando. Houses A and B, A is in the green dot and B is the red dot. They're only 70 feet apart. However, it is a 7.1 mile drive to go from driveway A to driveway B. Besides the impact on traffic and travel time, what about emergency services, utility services, or potentially school zoning, and many other items? The more urban the land use, the more people that are present, the higher the need for multimodal accommodations and connectivity. In your mind, think of a big city. How easy is it to have your own car? Are there parking spaces? If so, how much does it cost to park? Would you even have a car? If not, how would you get around? Is there incentive for employees in the downtown areas to vanpool, take transit, or walk? FDOT is working with our local partners to create livable communities. Livable communities focus on multimodal, where it is not necessary to own a car. What this slide shows is various land types or land uses. The department calls these differences context zones. Each zone shows different development patterns and traffic distribution routes. With Florida's population increasing daily, the rural towns are transitioning to urban general, and urban general is transitioning to urban center and urban core. If you've traveled downtown Lakeland, you have seen this. As you transition to the more urban area, more people, what stands out in your mind about that type of area? What features make this area attractive to you? Notice the different types of streets shown through the zones, which allow for varying traffic flow patterns. As you get more urban, the communities become more livable for a variety of users. So looking at this picture, what is the first thing that you think of? Was it, it's time to widen the road? What will that solve? There's already 6 lanes in each direction. Certain areas in Florida already have similar situations to this. Central Florida is quickly approaching a similar situation on many roadways. Instead of widening the road, what might be the solution? Parallel roads, transit, bus-only lanes, rail? An interesting point to note, a recent analysis from the Department of Transportation Central Office in Tallahassee concluded that over the last 10 years, the cost to construct 1 mile of roadway has increased by 95%. The traditional methods of addressing congestion are no longer the affordable option. So what is mobility? In years past, the definition given to mobility was the movement of people and goods. Faster, farther, and in greater numbers means progress for society. Versus the complete street way of defining mobility. The population's capabilities and strategies to move in order to access what they need to live within the city and the region. This addresses many populations. People who have disabilities have different income levels, people of differing ages, beliefs, and interests. Some don't want to own a car, some prefer walking or riding a bicycle to destinations because of health benefits. Some are environmentally conscious and take transit to support that movement. Mobility now means each trip has a specific purpose. What land development layout, what transportation mode is best to accomplish these trips? The movement is purposeful. Shared mobility has disrupted our traditional transportation system and has forced us to rethink the future. We know younger generations are using these options, and this trend is only going to grow as the population evolves, with 40 million people anticipated to share vehicles by 2024. Reduced individual ownership of vehicles, increased vehicle mile travel. There's a need for many areas for less parking and more curb management. Uber, Lyft, Grubhub, DoorDash. We've seen this around our communities as parking spaces have been redesigned for curbside only. Additionally, this population is also more likely to use multimodal options as opposed to just one mode. As you can see, the differences in distances opens up a range of options and mobility solutions for users to utilize. As stated before, this trend is only going to continue as less and less individuals are obtaining a driver's license in comparison with previous generations. For example, in the United States, 61% of 16 to 19-year-olds in 2018 had driver's license, compared with 87% in 1983. It's estimated that there are between 1.5 and 2 million Uber drivers across the United States pre-pandemic. Alternate modes of transportation need to be connected. It should be simple to transfer from one mode to the next. Transportation choices should be in the forefront of users' minds. This will save time and money. Currently, the first choice is the automobile. In many areas within District 1, it is the only choice. In Florida, specifically in our region, we need to make a conscious decision to offer or enhance and promote the use of alternate modes of transportation. Ease of access, frequency of access, and connectivity need to be in place before there will be a culture change. As the use of multimodal options and availability increases, so will the safety of our roadways. So let the change begin with you. What decision can you make to increase the safety of our roadways? The stories and the specifics relating to this picture don't matter. Was it at a school bus stop? Was there a pedestrian crossing the road? Was there a railroad crossing? What matters is that this can happen anywhere and does happen. Similar to the discussion on providing and promoting different mode choices, we need to let the change begin with ourselves. What if you or your family were involved in this situation? We all have the ability to make roadways safer for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. And I guess I'm up next. Again, I'm Ryan Kordek with the Polk TPO. I'm going to talk about county's transportation future, but this does have kind of definitely a transit slant to it. It speaks to a lot of what Nicole talked about in terms of crashes, fatalities, injuries and fatalities, and that, it's one thing we spend so much time worrying about or getting from point A to point B as fast as we can. Sometimes, especially with all the population growth and the congestion that we have, it means a lot just to get to someplace safe and get there so you, again, arrive there safely. A couple things I'm going to talk about too, and just touch on are, we're a growing county in Polk, and talk a little about the forecast for future growth in Polk County. It's one thing to plan for what all the transportation needs are right now with the population and traffic that we have right now, but to think about, well, what's our population going to be in another 10 or 20 or 25 years? It's a whole nother consideration. The infographic there, kind of in the middle, something I'm really going to talk a lot about in my presentation. It's kind of a first mile, last mile. We spend a lot of time talking about, the facilities, whether we have sidewalks in a street or how many lanes are on a roadway. In terms of transit too, and if you're a bicycle pedestrian within those corridors, whether you're using transit or not, it's a whole nother perspective when you're talking about the first or last mile. You may take a bus and have a great bus route, a great trip, but you get to the place that you're going and you have to navigate a ditch or a 50-acre parking lot or so on. And that's why I say it's complete streets is what we're about, but it's also about completing the trip. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about a few long-range transportation plan considerations, in particular the potential extension of Sunrail into Polk County as well as high-speed rail. But like I said, I wanted to get started a little bit with population, and it just came out a few weeks ago. The U.S. Census released the population figures for Polk County. They came in at 725,000. It's quite a bit. That's an increase of 122,000 people just since 10 years ago. And again, that's significant. Again, we're growing. You can see the newspaper articles up on the upper right-hand side of the slide, saying that we have the second fastest rate of growth in the United States of America right here in Polk County. With this map and the next series of maps, what they depict are some of that growth over the last 10 years. It shows this is the residential growth. These are parcels that have been built, houses or apartments, condos have been built on them, all just within the last 10 years. And this first slide shows, it's a dot for each parcel, but this is, so it's kind of a dot distribution map, but this shows, again, the growth going back the first part of the last decade from 2010 to 2013. And again, you can kind of see where the growth was happening then. We're coming out of the downturn in the economy, but things were just starting to pick up again in the early 2010s. And then you can see adding the growth from 2014 to 2018 in Polk County. And you can start to see some areas that are starting to really fill in particular, outside of just the Lakeland Winter Haven urbanized area, but looking at northeastern Polk, you see a lot of new growth along the County Road 54 corridor, US 27, as well as Pointsiana. And then this is the whole 10 years. This is looking at essentially all of the growth that's happened in Polk County from 2010 to 2020. This is an exact one-to-one. We're not saying that all the new people that came to Polk County or moved to Polk County are necessarily living in a new house, but this does, again, give you indication where a number of them are living, and at any rate where our new growth is occurring in the county. This graphic is very interesting because this actually, I just segregated just the 2019 and 2020 growth in Polk County, and that's highlighted in red. And in terms of order of magnitude here, the amount of parcels that were developed, the new houses or condos or apartments were getting built was about 1,500 a year in the early 2010s. That doubled around 2015, 2016 to around 3,000, 3,500 or so. But just in the last 2 years, 2019, 2020, and again, why we're getting newspaper articles like you see, why we're called the second fastest rate of growth in the U.S., we're upwards of about 6,500 residential lots are getting built a year right now. That's the annual average in Polk County. And again, this just shows the highlighting the northeast part of the county, that's where we're seeing the most amount of growth. But that's the last 10 years and kind of where we're at today, 725,000 in population. But in 25 years, Polk's population is planned to exceed 1 million residents, or about another 250,000. We're actually anticipating it a little over 1 million by, again, the year 2045. So you kind of ask the questions, well, again, what kind of transportation issues are you going to have, not just now, but in the future? This is an aerial showing some of the growth up in northeast Polk County, a typical picture up there. And we kind of demonstrated that there's been a lot of growth in the last 10 or even 20 years in that part of the county. But by 2045, the Polk TPO, we're estimating that there's going to be an additional 250,000 residents just in that area of the county, looking out to the year 2045. And when I say northeast Polk, what this map shows too is I'm not just talking about northeast Polk like I-4 and US 27. It's a larger expanded area that actually goes all the way down to Bartow, includes Winter Haven, Dundee, and out towards Pointsiana as well. And still, it's not that that's the only area of growth. There's still significant growth anticipated in the greater Lakeland area with almost 100,000 new residents, as well as even portions of southwest Polk County, the Bartow Mulberry area, and areas down there showing an additional 40,000 residents is what we anticipate. And we're starting to see that in traffic, not just us. You drive around Polk County. This aerial is Interstate 4 east of US 27, and if you've driven up there recently, especially in the last couple of years, you're seeing congestion up there. It's becoming almost a daily occurrence up there. The traffic volumes on that portion of Interstate 4 have essentially doubled in about the last 17 years, where in 2002, there were about 67,000 vehicles a day. Now it's 134,000 a day, at least in 2019 on that portion of Interstate 4. This map shows the county as a whole and just some of the traffic congestion that we're seeing. Again, no surprises, but these are roads that are, roads like County Road 557, the road we just discussed, Interstate 4, as well as some other roads in and around the greater Lakeland and Winter Haven area. You can see roads that are either at congestion or starting to approach congestion. And this is in the year 2020. Looking out to the year 2045, if we take all that population and employment that I was just discussing, we put that into a travel demand model or transportation model, and it tells us, well, what are the roads going to look like in another 20, 25 years? And this is the way it looks in Polk, going out about 25 years with a significant amount of congestion, in particular in northeast Polk County, and a fair amount still in the Lakeland, greater Lakeland and Winter Haven area. But some of the roads that stick out are State Road 60, again, I-4, US 27, US 1792. And I think Nicole touched on this in her presentation. You know, we're not going to be able to build our way out of all this congestion in terms of roads. You know, it's very difficult to widen roads now. Not to say that we're not going to widen any roads, but we need to be very selectful and make prudent decisions on where we widen roads. So there's other modes are needed, other forms of transportation. Focus of my presentation isn't to dwell or talk about all the road needs. Again, it's to get into some of the other modes, and in particular that first mile, last mile kind of a thing. Again, not just complete streets, but things that we can do to help with the complete trip. And I think you're going to hear Chuck's presentation really get into the complete trip side of it. And again, what we're seeing like a local government at Lakeland and what they're trying to do to complete those trips. And when I say complete trips, this is two pictures that just came in that popped in. One of my favorites on the left side of your screen, and this is just showing somebody's idea of a needed bus bench next to a Citrus Connection sign. We see that means obviously something to me at the TPO and the Citrus Connection staff when we see that. One thing I can report that photo was taken over 10 years ago in Highland City, and we have a full-blown transit shelter and bus pull-off there now, so we've addressed that. But again, when we're talking about complete strips, it's not complete trips. It's not just the road itself or the facilities that we have on the road. Again, it's what you have to help you provide access, let's say, to transit. Or again, you see the woman on the right where there's a transit shelter and she got off at that stop, but again, she has to navigate a ditch, walk some ways without a sidewalk to get where it is that she's going. Complete streets, I guess, are relatively new. We've been talking about them for a lot the last 10 years. I would say at the Polk TPO, the City of Lakeland, FDOT, we've been doing complete street or complete street components for decades. It just seems like it's a modern thing. It's what we call it now. But at any rate, the Polk TPO, we signed policies in support of complete streets. We got all the local governments in Polk County back in 2012 to sign policies of support for complete streets. And kind of some of the reasons why, Nicole touched on this in her presentation. Polk County in Florida, we have one of the highest crash rates, both the rate as well as the true number in terms of bicycle and pedestrian injuries and fatalities. This map, these graphics show that the annual average between 2018 and 2020, we have about 29 fatalities, 59 severe injuries a year. Those are the going rates right now. So again, that's some of the reasons why we take complete streets so seriously. These pictures, these are not pictures that a local chamber of commerce are putting on the front of their websites by any means, but again, it's a look at what some of these high crash corridors look like in Polk County. Some of these are state roads like State Road 659, Comby Road, or roads that you see in the greater Lakeland and Winter Haven area. Again, these are the roads that are producing a lot of those crashes. And we also, on some of these pictures, these are transit patrons. The lower left is you see a woman with a child in a stroller. She's waiting at a transit stop in Juanita. You see the gentleman on a bicycle in the middle upper part with all the trucks going by. That's Comby Road, and he's waiting at a transit stop there to get on a bus. And then you see people just gotten off a bus on Wabash Avenue, and again, navigating a road without sidewalks. Some things that we've done beyond just complete streets, there's kind of a component of complete streets really. One of the things we've done at the Polk TPO with some of our planning efforts is to look a little more detail, not just say, well, here's all our crashes, here's where they're occurring, but look at things from a planning level down at the neighborhood level. And we've identified areas that in the county, about 15 neighborhoods, what we call neighborhood mobility audits is what we did, where we looked at areas where there's a large concentration of people and populations that have been traditionally underserved. There's also large numbers of people that don't have automobiles, and they're walking and biking, using transit quite a bit. We also saw that these neighborhoods were in a lot of those same areas that had all the high crashes. The long and short of it is we did a lot of detailed planning at the neighborhood level. We came away with a lot of needed improvements, particularly type improvements that will improve pedestrian and bicycle transportation as well as access to transit. And through our complete street efforts as well as the neighborhood mobility audits, I need to really update this graphic. It's actually well in excess of $20 million in just the last 5 years is what we've implemented. Again, try to support, improve safety, improve access to transit. And this is a little bit of a plug. I'll take just a minute. Again, I work for the Polk Transportation Planning Organization. One of the things that we do is we solicit for candidate projects that will do things like improve transportation, improve safety. This infographic here on the right kind of shows what we do with about a $7.5 million annual allocation of federal transportation dollars. This is how we back up our planning for safety and complete streets. And you can see we have, these are just annual targets, but we anywhere from $750,000 for transit enhancements upwards of $1.5 million for standalone bicycle pedestrian projects. But again, if you're a local government in Polk County and anything of what I'm talking about sounds like you might have some of those needs in your community, my contact information is going to be at the end of my presentation. Certainly call my number, send me an email. We'd love to give you a talk and see what we can do in your community. I said I would talk a little on Sunrail and high-speed rail. This picture was taken about a year ago, pre-COVID, I will say, but spring of last year, and this is what you're looking at is the Sunrail Station in Osceola County, and this is the end of Sunrail and the closest point to Polk County, about 2 miles over our county line. You know, it's really impressive looking at the parking lot in particular. I think at one time I counted the number of spaces. There's about 170 spaces. Only one of them is available. And you can see about 3 or 4 cars navigating, so it's probably just was a matter of seconds before that last parking space was eaten up. So we know there's a lot of people from, it's just 2 miles over our county line. We know there's a lot of people from Polk County accessing Sunrail, where you can take Sunrail near our county line and head on into destinations, including downtown Orlando with Sunrail. It's a popular service. And we have it in our plans to eventually extend Sunrail into Polk County. There's a lot of important and needed steps, though, where getting something like a transit bus to connect to Sunrail might cost something like $200,000 or $300,000. To actually extend the rail service for any amount of distance into Polk County, say to Haines City or Winter Haven or Auburndale, you're probably talking at least a couple $100 million for the actual rail service. Not to say that we'll never have it, but what our plans, what our studies have reflected in regards to Sunrail, the first thing they say is, well, you need to get bus service to Sunrail. You should try to think about connecting Winter Haven, Haines City, Auburndale, even Lakeland at some point to Sunrail. And a new service that just kicked off, if you're not aware of it, it's relatively new. I think they started it late last year, but the picture that you see here, this is the new multimodal transfer center up in Parsner Park, up in northeast Polk County, right at Interstate 4 and US 27. You can actually see 3 buses there that are pulled in, and Citrus Connection has just started a route from Parsner Park. And you can see the map on the upper right that essentially takes you over to that Sunrail station. So this is the first instance, again, where we're actually connecting to Sunrail. And again, it's a good service. If you're not aware of it, again, it'll get you there in short order and connect you directly with the Sunrail service. We've done some more planning in regards, thinking along the lines of connecting Sunrail. The map in the upper right-hand corner, this is coming off of a study that we just completed. And you see, lines on the map, different colors that show not just connecting, say, Parsner Park to Sunrail, but looking at what it would take to connect, say, Lake Wales or Bartow, Winter Haven, even Lakeland with Sunrail. And you see several premium transit services that are proposed throughout the county. Wouldn't just connect to Sunrail, but they'd also provide important services that would connect, Lakeland to Winter Haven to Auburndale or Haines City, even the ridge communities between Frostproof and Haines City. So this was one of the things that we've done recently, and these kind of things will be reflected in our long-range plans, in particular our TDP, we call it. That's our 10-year transit development plan. Another recent study I just want to highlight, going back to my earlier slide in the picture showing the need for maybe transit shelters and transit needs. We've just come off of a study that we've evaluated the top 100 stops. And when I say the top 100 stops, I mean the stops that have their top 100 in terms of they have the most amount of ridership, the most amount of people that are going there to access the transit system. And we're just coming off of that. And again, there's a lot of good recommendations there in terms of things like adding sidewalks, shelters themselves, lighting, connections between businesses and those transit shelters. So that's what we're looking at. And both the Citrus Connection and TPO have funds available that over time that are going to help us to implement a lot of those features. And again, just wanted to let you know about that. And I'm getting towards the end of my portion of the presentation, but I did want to end on a high-speed rail, and have an interesting picture here on this slide. This goes back to 1974, and this is a model of high-speed rail proposed by, at the time, Florida Governor Askew in 1974, showing what, again, a model rendition of high-speed rail would look like. And really, over time, over the last 50 years, high-speed rail has been on again, off again. I like to think it's maybe on again, at least from a planning perspective. And for a large part of those 50 years, this was always envisioned, I guess, to be it would be funded by government. It would be a government-type service, led by government. And it's actually the private sector that's really taken a look. And there's been discussions between a Brightline rail service and the Florida Department of Transportation for a rail service in the Interstate 4 corridor. You may have heard of Brightline. They are currently, although they currently have service in Southeast Florida between West Palm Beach and Miami, and they're currently building, extending that service from West Palm Beach up the East Coast and then over on what's called the B line, or State Road 528. And if you've driven that road recently, on the south side of the road, you will see the construction of the rail service where they're bringing into Orlando International Airport. Brightline has again been in discussions with FDOT since about 2018 to extend the service, come up with an agreement extending it to Tampa, the city of Tampa. And that's something, again, no agreements have been reached that I'm aware of. I know the discussions have been ongoing for the last several years. I'm very confident at some point something like this is going to happen. And again, Polk County would be suited very well there, because Brightline, they presented to our board about 2 years ago. There was no promises about a stop in Polk County, but what they said is, if you've got good transit planning and you've got good ancillary type service that would help, say, if we were to have a stop somewhere in Polk County where someone would get off of the high-speed rail, that they could get on, say, a transit bus and go, to their final destination. That's something that's, was a strong consideration for them, and through our transit plans, and again, in just what we have in Polk County, we think we're suited very well, and we're very supportive of them extending the service from Orlando to Tampa, realizing, that in the future it's going to mean good things to Polk County. But that really concludes my presentation. Chuck, I think you're next, and I'm going to try to not. Right. There's the clicker, and I'm going to try to not be as slow here. Oh, good, my mouse is working. I'll pull yours up and let you take it away.
All right.
There you go.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Again, my name is Chuck Barmby. I'm with the City of Lakeland, and what you've heard today from Nicole and Ryan are that we're presented with a lot of safety challenges and a lot of growth challenges, and what that translates into is how are we going to end up moving people safely looking into the next 10 or 20 years. And just listening to the presentations, what dawned on me is that at least within the Lakeland area by the year 2045, we're going to add the population of a city of Fort Myers or a city of Melbourne or a city of Largo in the Lakeland area by itself. So that kind of puts things in perspective in terms of what we're looking at in terms of our growth challenges going forward. And so for the past 40 years or so, Lakeland has embraced mass transportation, and we're excited about what the future may bring, whether it's extending Sunrail to Lakeland or high-speed rail. The image on the screen right here is a stationary concept that was developed back in 2010, just to get people to start thinking about what our different transportation options look like in the future. And much like what you heard from DOT and from the TPO, City of Lakeland, for us, it's about connectivity. In fact, we've got what I like to call a culture of connectivity that is based on complete streets that serve all users, not just about moving cars. And for us, since we also, not only do we implement infrastructure within the city, but we also approve development within the city. So for us, it's about the last foot of travel. How do we get somebody from a bus to the front door of a business, or from a bus stop to the front door of their home as safely and as comfortably as possible? And for us, it's about our partnerships. I mean, we would not be able to do what we do without the partnerships of DOT, the TPO, the Citrus Connection absolutely is critical, as well as our community redevelopment agency, city departments, and the development community. We work very closely together to make the system work and make it as seamless as possible. And one of the things that gives us the flexibility to do these things is our comprehensive plan. It's the 10-year master plan for the city that looks at how we're going to grow in different parts of the city. In an area that's 75 square miles like Lakeland is, not all development within the city should be the same. There's an area where people want to have more of an urban lifestyle. There are others where it's more suburban or more rural, but the intent is to have the right transportation system, the right streets, the right transit facilities in the right place to be able to serve users, not only today, but going forward into the future. When we look at gauging how our system is performing, we look at what we call our level of service standards that are adopted in our 10-year master plan by the City Commission. And for us, it is just as important about the transit services that are available in Lakeland, or the sidewalks that are available, or our bike trails, as it is about the number of lanes that are on a roadway. And so when we go through and we look at development proposals, we make sure that whatever is coming before us complies with our level of service standards, and that we make sure that we have the right mitigation or the right requirements for development for the right area of town. Again, one size doesn't fit all. One of the interesting things, and you may have heard this earlier today, is that within the Lakeland area, we have the benefit of having a taxing district that charges a $500,000 on each property owner's tax bill for transit services. And this was something that goes back to around 1980 when the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District was established. And so what that does is it gives us a solid, long-term, sustainable funding source to fund transit services within our area. And so when new development comes into Lakeland, and certainly over the years, we have annexed beyond the boundaries of the original Lakeland Area Mass Transit District. We require that developers submit an annexation petition to the Citrus Connection to be acted on by their board of directors to help add lands to the taxing district. And over the past year, we've added 900 acres to the Lambhead or the Citrus Connection boundaries, which is substantial. What that means is that there's an additional revenue source that's available to fund our growth. And just one example, up in northeast Lakeland, off of State Route 33, the new Lakeland Commerce Park, where Cons is located, that site is generating $15,000 a year additional tax revenue for the Lakeland Area Mass Transit District, and it will do so in perpetuity, increasing with the increase in property values. And so this is an extremely stable funding source that we have available. And so whether it's northeast off of State Route 33, the Griffin Road corridor, or in southwest Lakeland, this is an important tool that we have available to keep up with the growth as much as we can and provide for the future transit services. The Land Development Code is about a 400-page document that really outlines how specific types of development are expected to occur throughout the city of Lakeland. Definitely not good Friday night reading, but when you get into looking at what we have for transportation, for us it's about the urban form. It's about having blocks that people, more traditional type city blocks where people can walk to and from work, to school, to the park. For commercial development, we want to make it, again, easy for folks to get from a transit stop into the front door of a store or an apartment building. So we require on-site circulation for sidewalks, transit shelters, bicycle parking, all kinds of other types of measures that may not seem significant at this scale, but it's very important to the end user to get them to where they want to go comfortably. And one of the other big things that we have that's required of us at the city is we make what we call concurrency determinations for new development. Can the infrastructure that's available for transportation support the development proposals that are coming before us for approval? And our concurrency requirements and our level of service standards give us the flexibility, again, to craft a set of requirements to best suit the location that we're reviewing. And so location out here at Publix and County Line Road opened about 3 or 4 months ago. We worked with Publix to put a transit shelter on site. There's an easement that gives the Citrus Connection the route and the rights to access that route long-term in perpetuity. ADA compliant routes to the store, making sure that transit was integrated in with the overall site design of this commercial center, And as residential develop around the shopping center, we've got good connections to those homes. Again, in terms of concurrency requirements, generally within the what we call our transit-oriented corridors or our central city area, we have the options to be able to require additional transit shelters, special site design. We even go as far for large employment centers as requiring shower facilities if there's an office building that has more than 40,000 square feet of space. That was one of the things that we heard from bicyclists as being one of the biggest hindrances to them bicycling to work is the fact that, especially this time of year, who's going to want to bike 5 miles to an office building and not have a shower facility to be able to get cleaned up to go to work? So little things are very key in terms of making the system operate as we hope it will. For larger development, we've also worked on transit funding agreements. This goes back to even Oak Ridge. Lakeside Village, one of the big reasons why Lakeside Village was approved 20 years ago and is up and operating today was the fact that we were able to work with the developer and the state on coming up with transit mitigation packages to allow us to fund transit bus purchases, transit services, sidewalk connections in the South Lakeland area. Otherwise, Lakeside Village as we know it as a major retail destination would not exist today. And so we've been able to replicate that model around Lakeland. Lakeland Park Center up on the north side of the city there at US 98 and I-4 was another example where we worked with the developer to develop an agreement where they bought a bus, they funded 5 years of services to the shopping center. They also developed a park and ride transfer center that can serve not only the current Citrus Connection routes, but also future express bus services to Tampa and Orlando. And actually, through this agreement, the Blue Line ridership was increased because of the ability of us to work transit in with a new market, a new set of customers that are coming into this major activity center. And the transfer center here at Lakeland Park Center is the 13th ranked countywide stop in terms of activity in all of Polk County. So it takes a little time, but that ridership base will increase, and we want to make sure that infrastructure is there to support them. And this is just in terms of how we try to work this funding into our overall transportation planning scenarios with the city to show that the dollars are available, when they're available, to make these improvements happen and make sure that the dollars are expended at the appropriate times. So this is just an example of, talking about something that's very tangible is that, the developer bought this bus and this was the day it was delivered from California. And this is after they put their marketing on it. This was at the ribbon cutting of the shopping center. And the developer was skeptical that this process would work in the very beginning, but because of the Citrus Connections partnership and helping the developer through the process, they were extremely pleased of how this worked out and the amount of customers who were being brought to the shopping center. And just some examples of how the shopping center fit into the overall transportation network in North Lakeland. And going forward, we've executed similar development agreements or transit funding agreements with the Riverstone community in Southwest Lakeland off of Pipkin Road. That funding is helping to provide increased services along the Red Line in Southwest Lakeland. Coming up in the next couple of years, we'll also see additional investments by Orlando Health and the Lakeland VA Clinic right there around the Lakeland Highlands Polk Parkway interchange. What is really interesting about both of those projects, because they're in such close proximity to each other, is that the VA Clinic transit funding will actually help serve as a springboard into the longer term services provided by Orlando Health. And both projects are going to be providing funding for the purchase of buses to serve their facilities and the overall public. So we're trying to take this methodology, carry it forward, and grow the ridership base. And we, again, very much appreciate the Citrus Connections assistance in helping us get there with the development community. In terms of public investments, whether it's a bike trail like the Three Parks Trail, we wanted to make sure that infrastructure investment was coordinated with a transit stop that was being funded by the Rotary Club of Lakeland. So again, private entity purchased a transit shelter, installed it, and we wanted to make sure that the trail system connected to that transit stop to create a good node right across from a major park in the middle of Lakeland. Likewise, the Lake Beulah Trail was constructed with funding from DOT through the TPO, and we included transit infrastructure as part of that project about 10 years ago. And so the picture on the right is a little dated because now the Lakeland Housing Authority has completely rebuilt the community in the background. And as part of that development process, we collectively worked together to make sure that the connections to that transit infrastructure was maximized with this new opportunity. So it takes a long time. It's a very piecemeal approach, but it is a way to get the system to where it needs to be to serve all users going forward. Of course, one of the other big issues that we have is the functionality of the current transit terminal in downtown Lakeland, and how can we grow that to serve the future population and employment that we will have in the Lakeland area. And so thanks to DOT and a feasibility study that they completed about a year and a half ago, we see now the future of the Lakeland Intermodal Center on the west side of downtown Lakeland. The preferred site is near the RP Funding Center between Main and Lemon Streets. And so if you look at the images on your screen, what is now a vacant field could end up and is expected to end up becoming a transportation hub for not only Lakeland, but also Polk County and Central Florida. And so these are images to get people to think about what does transit look like tomorrow in our community. And so for us, it's a new transit terminal that meets today's design standards with the capacity to handle the population and employment growth in our area. It includes a new Amtrak station with a passenger platform and a connection to Bonnet Springs Park and a future development site on the west side of Lake Wire. It includes a parking garage, rideshare and electric vehicle charging opportunities, and it supports the overall land development plans that are being developed for the downtown west area and the Lake Wire area. And our expectation is that it will serve as an anchor for Sunrail extension from Orlando into Lakeland whenever that happens. Bus rapid transit. This is another item that you've heard a lot in the news about here recently. And for us, we're excited about the opportunities in the US 98 corridor because long term, it gives the bus a place to operate more efficiently outside of the regular vehicle stream. If a bus is sitting in the same traffic as vehicles, it's not operating to its potential, and bus rapid transit gives us the ability to kind of go to that next level. And so again, starting with the work that TPO developed about 10 years ago and ongoing work by DOT, we're in the process of putting together a plan that looks at dedicated transit ways, special branding, special station locations to support bus rapid transit, as well as signal prioritization to allow the buses, at least in the interim, to get through the system as quickly as possible. And so this is all, again, it takes time and it takes a while for the pieces of the puzzle to get together. But what you see here is an area-wide study that DOT conducted about 3 years ago that looked at the entire north half of the city. And coming out of that study were recommendations for Lakeland Hills Boulevard, Memorial, Kathleen Road, and Florida Avenue. And the City Commission adopted a prioritized list of strategies that we now use as a blueprint going forward when we request funding from DOT or through the TPO to implement these projects, and US 98 Bus Rapid Transit is on that list. So again, Bus Rapid Transit works if we have a more urban form, which we are certainly seeing in the area around Lakeland Regional Medical Center and the future high-speed rail station area around North Lakeland and US 98. So having something on paper that we can then work towards from a land development standpoint is huge, and make sure that we target our investments in the right way, in the right place. So again, the Bus Rapid Transit study completed by DOT looked at the area between the new downtown Intermodal Center and Lakeland Square Mall. It was really based on future travel and safety data, looking at the year 2045. It looked at the types of station areas that we would expect to see in the corridor and transit improvement options, not just waiting until 2045 for the improvements to be made, but how do we do it in the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years to get where we need to be. And so the study broke out what they call good, better, and best options for each of those years for 9 station locations. And I think one of the key things to note here is that from a transit signal prioritization standpoint, we've worked with the Department of Transportation to expand funding that has already been allocated for a program on Florida Avenue to now also include US 98 and Lakeland Hills Boulevard. We were going from 17 intersections to around 50 intersections to update the traffic signals to allow the buses to go through much more quicker than currently is the case. But that was one of the key recommendations that it came out of the bus rapid transit study, is that's something that needed to happen to start to make transit a more attractive option for choice riders. And so we're laying that groundwork today. And so again, like every big class, there's always homework when we get done. And so there are a lot of things that are underway. I mentioned transit system prioritization, the funding and implementation of that bus rapid transit in coordination with the Citrus Connection and the Community Redevelopment Agency, integrating those types of investments into our upcoming Downtown West and Lakewire master plans, adding language for the bus rapid transit system into our comprehensive plan, which the new 10-year update becomes effective this month. And so the timing was good to be able to get that into the plan. But we also now must address uses along the US 98 corridor, and again continue to work together on a long-term sustainable funding option for the operations, the maintenance, and the capital needs to grow the transit system in our area. So we're excited about what those opportunities bring to our community now and in the future. And so that is the last slide that I have, and my contact information is on the screen.
Okay. I think that's all we have today for our portion of this. I just want to remind everyone that at 1:45 we're going to have James Phillips and Paul Sims of Citrus Connection talking to you about interactive transit apps. So for Nicole, Chuck, I'm Ryan, and we're signing off. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Good afternoon, this is Paul Sims, and here with me today is...
Hi, I'm James Phillips.
And we're here today to share with you Citrus Connection Better Riding Experience through Technology. Citrus Connection has developed a new technology to make riding our buses easier, more efficient, and smarter. This technology includes a number of things. We talk about our website, mobile ticketing app, our MyStop mobile app, and texting for my bus, my phone. Using the Citrus Connection website to find your route, you'd go to writecitrus.com, and then you select the required routes. Once you have done that, you will see both the east side and the west side of the county. You select the appropriate route. Once you've done so, you find out which route you need to get to your destination, whether it be on the east side
or on the west side, where the west side routes are Lakeland area and Bartow.
And on the east side, we have Winter Haven and Auburndale. To find your individual route maps, you would return to the route page and scroll to the bottom of the page and select. You'll find the download maps of each individual route, which includes, for the Lakeland area, the colored routes, red, yellow, purple, blue, pink, etc.
And on the east side of the county, you will see the routes such as the 19X, which takes you from Parsner to the Sunrail, and the 21X, which takes you from Mulberry to Bartow and then to Lake Wales. Next, we'll be talking about our mobile ticketing system using the Citrus Connection M-Pass. So first, you will go to your Play Store, your App Store of choice, whether it's the Apple Store or Google Play Store. You'll type in Citrus Connection M-Pass into the search bar, and you'll see our logo right there on the right-hand side. Click on it, and you'll select Download. Once it's done installing, you can then open it up, and you'll be taken to this home screen right here. This is the home screen, the landing page that will open up every time you open this app. The first time you come to your app, it's best to go to the utilities in the top right-hand corner here. Some people call that the hamburger menu. You'll click on that, and you can then create your profile. To create your profile, you'll make a email and a password associated with that and create a new account. It should be noted, however, it's not required to make a profile for this app. However, it's strongly encouraged as all purchases that you make in those profile will follow you from device to device if you have to switch phones. So once you're done with that, if you chose to make a profile, you can then come to bypasses. You'll select that, and you'll see our fare structure right here. You'll see the adults, the students, and senior disabled rides. Note that if you select one of these special reduced fares, you may be asked to provide additional identification to do so. Once you choose the fare that you'd like to purchase, a disclaimer will come up. You'll just read through that, and then you can accept and continue. And then you can move then on to the payment section. If you've made a profile, you can save payment forms in here to make it easier and faster next time. That's another added benefit of creating a profile. Otherwise, you can every time put in a different payment information, name on the card, card number, standard things that you see when you purchase, and then accept and pay. Once the transaction is successful, you can then have the option to go straight to your ticket wallet to then use your passes. This is your typical ticket wallet you'll see here, a one-ride pass for an adult. It's currently inactive and expires September 26, 2021. To activate this ticket, you'll tap on that white ellipses that you want to activate, and you'll be presented with these series of screens. First on the left here is your pass that you bought, your one-ride adult pass. When you're ready to board the bus, just tap on that button there that says Activate Ticket, and then you'll see this image here on the right-hand side. This QR code, date timestamp group, and some colored bars. Note that these bars change colors throughout the day. In the date timestamp group, it moves from left to right. This is a visual validation for our drivers to know that it's not a screen capture, that this is a live ticket. They're trained to know that if the date time group is not moving, it's not a valid ticket. And if you try to share screens with somebody else, the app is smart enough to know to turn those colored bars into just a flashing gray strobe. And the drivers know that that's not valid either. So after you've purchased your tickets, to access them anytime after that initial time, if you bought something besides the one ride, you can then come from the home screen that you come to when you open the app. You select the My Passes button right there in the center. You'll be then taken back to this similar screen that we saw before. You can tap on the same ticket as before, and you'll be taken through the same process. Other helpful tools within MPass can be accessed through the same utilities menu as before in the top right-hand screen. And then you can be taken down to Trip Tools. Other tools that are in this feature could be our Lost and Found website, information on our bike policy, and at the very bottom there is our route information, which will take you to our MyStop mobile.
The next one we look at is how we track our bus by MyStop mobile. Step one, whether you have your Android phone or your Apple phone, you want to go to Play Store and download the MyStop mobile. Once you download, you're going to install the MyStop mobile to your device. It's going to give you a quick walkthrough of what MyStop mobile does and will appear first. Then, when you're done, you will click Continue. You will have to allow the app to track your location, therefore you give access to GPS on your device. When you're done, you tap Done and select Citrus Connection. You will see a variety of transit agency popped up you want to make sure that you select your transit authority citrus connection. After selecting citrus connection, you'll see a map of your current location. To see various routes, you want to tap Select Routes. Once you select the desired route, you'll see the popped up, the circles to the right. You want to highlight to give a check mark to the actual route that you want, and then you go to the top left-hand corner and check. When you finish, this will take you to the next screen, and it shows you the various bus routes, bus stops, and bus locations. If you select a bus, it will be highlighted, and it will show you the bus number, the number of rides, location, if the bus is on time or not. Next, you'll see two examples of routes here. First one you look at is a loop.
Bus 5299, you can see is on time here. The last stop was Lakeland Downtown Terminal, and there are 3 riders on the bus at this time. On the right-hand side, you can see that bus 1080 is late, running behind by 2 minutes, but there are no riders on the bus.
Okay. Then if you select the specific stop, it will show you the stop number, the next departure at that stop, which bus route it is, and the service stops. The example across.
You can see here on the example that the gold line is boarding right now, and the next couple of buses are coming to this stop is the peach line in 9 minutes, and the gold line again in 25, and then the peach line again after that in 40 minutes.
If you want to view service alerts, you select service alerts, and it will give you examples of detours, service updates, announcements. On the right, you will see.
You'll see a couple of detours and service updates here on the right-hand side, and a notification back from June letting our riders know that we were going to be closed for Independence Day.
Text alerts for your when your bus will arrive at your stop. You want to return to your home page. At your home page, you will see select your desired bus stop. You tap the alarm bell to the right of your desired route.
And once you've selected the desired route, you'll be presented with this screen right here. In this case, we're looking at the yellow 1. So I want to be notified 10 minutes before the bus is going to be arriving. And we're creating a window between 8:10 and 8:40, which is roughly around the bus is supposed to show up. And it's going to be notifying me via text or email. In this case, we chose text. You can then put in your phone number and then add the notification.
You'll receive a text notification for the number of minutes the bus will arrive at that stop that you selected.
While we're texting, we can also use texting features outside of our apps for our bus stop signs. So here you can see a typical bus stop sign that we have in our Lakeland system. This one's for the yellow line right outside of our offices at 1212 George Jenkins. In the bottom left-hand corner, you can see that this is the bus stop is CC1264. And you can see that across the street from this bus stop is CC1186. That way you can know the bus stops across the street without having to cross traffic. So every bus stop, you can text that in a unique code through your typical messaging services, whether it be Apple or Android. And the number that you text is 321123. And that is provided on every sign in this green bar right here. You text the unique code 2321123. And you'll then be presented shortly thereafter the next two buses that will be stopping at that stop and their anticipated start time that they're supposed to be arriving. So just as a quick example of how easy and quick it is, I'm going to text CC 1264. I'm going to send it right now. And then it's going to come right now. That's how fast it is. We stand by for any questions. If anyone in the chat has any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
If no one cares to have any questions, we want to thank you for listening to Citrus Connection and its technology at work.
And we will be followed up with Tom. He will have some closing comments for today.
Thanks for being with us.
Hello everyone, Tom Phillips, the Executive Director of the Citrus Connection, and I just wanted to thank you so very much for attending the 2021 Transportation Summit, a community conversation. I hope that you've seen over the last hours that it truly takes a community to provide public transportation to all 2,009 square miles of Polk County. And that can't simply be done by one organization. It takes organizations like the Polk TPO, the Transportation Disadvantaged Program, our municipal partners at the City of Lakeland, and others. We are so glad that you were able to be part of this conversation. And once COVID is past, we hope to see you all in person for the 2022 community conversation. On behalf of everyone at the Citrus Connection, we thank you very much. Travel safe and God bless.